Ever since they announced Pokemon Legends ZA, I have been on board. Completely on board with the whole entire concept. I am one of those people who absolutely loved Legends Arceus to pieces, so just any kind of follow-up to that at all, absolutely cool, great. Active battle system, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Takes place in a city, okay, it's a weird idea, but I'm still open to it. You know, I'm having a hard time seeing in my head how you're gonna do it, but like I am open to you proving that you can. When they first revealed it, they only showed Pokemon wandering around these quote-unquote wild areas that were really just city streets. And I'm like, okay, like that's fine. I don't want it to only be that, but again, like I'm open to you like proving that you can do this, and yet trailer after trailer after trailer, like I keep waiting. The next one is gonna be the one that really sells me on the city idea and makes it not seem weird. You know, that because that's the thing. Up until like this entire time, it's just seemed weird. After every trailer, it still looks a little bit weird, and I'm just like, okay, maybe next time. Maybe next time. There's just been this sense the entire time that and obviously I've talked about it endlessly. I'm finally addressing the whole entire thing in a video. It's just seemed like they were holding back something. You know, like it looked so strange seeing a player running around and catching wild Pokemon, just like regular old city streets. There's gotta be something else. I'm waiting for the something else. I'm waiting for even just slightly more natural looking areas. Obviously it's not just city streets. There are like, okay, there's like the little creek reservoir, whatever you want to call it. There are places with a little bit more grass or trees, a bit, but I'm waiting for more. Waiting, always waiting for more. And they just released the like pre-launch overview trailer. You know, there's always like a kind of a longer overview trailer. We'll probably get one more or launch trailer. But a launch trailer never really reveals anything. It's just kind of like the final trailer before it comes out, just to like remind you of all the stuff. The overview trailer is kind of like where, if there's anything else to tell us, that's where they're going to tell us. Usually not a lot of like new stuff. Like basically we're long enough in the process. The game is very close to being released in a couple weeks now that like, I think we've seen it all. I think we've probably seen everything that this game has to offer, and yet here I am watching the overview trailer, and still that extra something is not there. That extra little thing that's like, here's why it makes sense to have a bunch of wild Pokemon just wandering around city streets next to sidewalks and piles of garbage and stuff. Like it just I don't know, just kind of felt like this was sort of their last chance. And so now, yeah, I'm really just like, yeah, I think this might be it. I think this really might be it. So I mean, obviously, like, I've got to address the whole idea that there could still be something that they are keeping a secret. Naturally, Catacombs comes to it. That's really like, that's the big thing that we're all crossing our fingers about, because like Lumiose City is based on Paris, France. And under Paris, it's hard to say, catacombs. There's like, you know, however long ago they dug out these just like humongous catacombs. I'd love to visit someday. It sounds really, really scary and really, really cool. But yeah, like there's this big underground network under Paris. Crazy, just absolutely crazy to imagine it. And you know, like the Pokemon Company, they really, really like to, they really run with their inspirations. You know, everything they do is very, very deliberate. All of really everything they do. The Pokemon designs, the world designs, you know, we get on their case for being like cheap and not cooking their games enough before releasing them, yada, yada. But like, they never, ever skimp in this department. They always deliver when it comes to just that, like, that conceptual development, the, you know, the lore, so to speak. So it seems like a really, really good chance that if they're gonna make a big game like this that's focused entirely on a place that's based on Paris, of course they would want to utilize the catacombs. And so it's definitely possible that somewhere in the game it'll be utilized. Maybe that's where like the end of the game, like, oh, the last boss went underground and you get like one little area that's like the catacombs or something, maybe. But of course the hope is that there's a big catacombs area to explore and they have kept it a secret. And I think we probably wouldn't have even imagined this. Like, I don't even think this idea would have been on the table. Like, game companies don't usually keep secrets. They want to give you all of the information, especially visual information, that may make you more likely to play a game. You know, when you're showing the trailer, that's why we have these problems sometimes, you know, Nintendo, last generation especially. There were a few games where they just spoiled everything in the trailer, because that makes for such a good trailer when you're just assaulting the viewer with all of these different places you can go and enemies you can fight. I really can't blame them. It does make for a really exciting showcase of a game. So yeah, we don't usually get secrets. And the only reason we're even considering this is because of Tears of the Kingdom. It's a very similar situation. Not only did Nintendo keep a secret, but also a secret about an underground place. Until they launched Tears of the Kingdom, we did not know that the depths existed at all. And I still think that's amazing. I still, like, you know, like, I have my criticisms about that game, sure, but like, I still think it's awesome that Nintendo was willing and able to pull that off. Incredible. And there was so much more about the game that they showed off, and it already looked like a big game. And then you play the game and you discover it was amazing. So there's at least this chance, because we have that prior experience. Okay, well, like, maybe there are catacombs in this game. Maybe that's why these trailers feel a little bit weird, a little bit bare bones, is because there is something about the game they're not telling us, and it's a secret. But like, I don't know, that idea, it seems unlikely that they wouldn't use the catacombs at all. But I think it also seems really unlikely that if the catacombs are a really big part of the experience, Pokemon would want to keep that a secret. I don't know why Pokemon would want to keep anything a secret. It's no, Pokemon, they like to sell games. They like to make the money with the games. And if there is something, some piece of information that's going to make a game seem more appealing, like it just has more going for it, like, why would they hold that back? So I really don't know there. And I am certainly hopeful, because that would help. That would really help, especially because they could do whatever they wanted with the catacombs. They could make them whatever size. You could have bigger, more cavernous areas, and I don't know. It would be cool. You could even have like a little kind of a dungeon system. I think that'd be amazing. It'd be a huge missed opportunity if they didn't use that. But here's the thing, though. Even that would not necessarily be like a miracle cure to this whole thing. It would be great. It would definitely make the game feel more full, you know, like complete. Like, I just think the game does look like it has a lot going for it. And like, yeah, don't get me wrong. Like, I am still excited for it. I really have to make that clear. I think feature-wise, the game still looks great. Love the battle system. Love the whole, the ZA Royale system. It looks like there's still going to be a lot of content, a lot of Pokemon to catch, a lot of trainers to fight, a lot of story to get through. Sure. It's just that, like, any game needs variety. You need a variety of areas to explore. And that's been the problem here, is that there's like no variety in any of the footage they've shown us. The first trailer to the most recent trailer, they've all looked the same. They've all looked basically identical. You're moving through these basically identical city areas. And the frustrating thing is that it's kind of like what we have seen has not even lived up to a very basic idea of this kind of game that anybody could imagine. Like again, Pokemon, they're usually really, really good at taking a concept and a setting and really exploring it and really delivering a lot in that department. And yet we're looking at these trailers and being like, all right, a Pokemon game where there are wild Pokemon in a city. Like, just say those words, and what comes to mind? I'm imagining, okay, well, here, did you know that cities have these things. These things. Maybe you've not seen one. Maybe Pokemon Company hasn't seen one. They have these things called parks. They have parks. You take a city, and even though it's a city, it's all streets and cars and buildings, just buildings, big city, skyscrapers, all over the place. It is so urban here. We are so in the city. We are not in nature. And yet they can take pieces of these cities and like put trees in them, put like plants and rocks and dirt and or usually, like, you know, when they're making the city, they'll just like keep this, like they'll just not destroy this little piece of nature. I live in the Seattle area, and it is funny because like we have some really beautiful parks, just amazing parks. Like you're in the city, but then like, I go over here and suddenly I'm in this like old growth, beautiful park, and wow, that's amazing. And then like you realize, this is how the whole place used to be. This is how this entire miles and miles and miles and miles was just this. And when they made the city, they just went, and they just like kind of cookie cuttered out these areas and left them alone. But point is, cities have parks. So when you say the words, it's a Pokemon game, but it takes place in a city, but there are wild areas where you can catch Pokemon, I'm imagining a park. I'm imagining some areas. It doesn't even have to be like biomes. It doesn't even have to be like, I did imagine that. Surely there are going to be like chunks of the city. This chunk over here is the desert biome. You know, they've done that in Pokemon. They did that in like Scarlet and Violet and stuff. Like they've done that plenty. I imagine that would probably happen, especially because the first teaser trailer was showing like this blueprint schematic as though they were like building Lumio City, and it looked all like futuristic. Definitely they're going to have some high-tech zones. But okay, if not that, the next best thing, I don't even need that. Whatever, that's obvious. How about just like more natural looking areas? Parks. Basically, an area that's a little bit more spread out. There's still like people. It's still kind of urban. You can still see the buildings around, but it's like, this little carved out place with some grassy hills and some trees, maybe even some denser areas with like maybe you can't see the building, just like parks. And so that's what's so strange about this is the game's coming out in a couple weeks. They just gave us the overview trailer, and it's still the same thing. The absolute best we get is like little chunks of grass. It's called the Hell Strip in a city. It's just this like little chunk of dirt that was left over with street around it, and it's really hard to take care of because it's so isolated, and like that's the best we get. We get these little chunks of grass, and like, this street is a little bit wider than the other ones. Hey, look, there's like what is it, a reservoir? It's just like there is some water. There is a bridge going over some water, some sort of river system. But that's like the most natural that we get. And it all really does look the same. There aren't even, and that's another thing about a real city is like there's going to be chunks of the city that look different. There's the downtown area. There are places that are denser or more spread out. And maybe there will be stuff like that in Lumiose. I'm sure there's going to be at least some personality somewhere, but like they're not showing off a lot of it. They're not showing off a lot of variety. And it's just, why would you have a city with a bunch of wild Pokemon? Like maybe that'll be a plot point. They're like, we want to create a place where people and Pokemon can get along. So we just scooped up all these Pokemon and just dropped them in the city without making any changes to the city whatsoever. I don't know. It's just weird. It's not living up to even just like the basic execution of this idea that anyone could imagine. And that's not to say it won't be a good game. And that's not to say that they won't surprise us in some way. But at this point, if there was going to be something, they should have shown it to us by now. And if they haven't, that means they're keeping a secret. Well, then if that's even possible, then it's going to be something big like the catacombs or whatever. But again, even that, it'd be great. That would be more variety. That would be more exploration of the idea. But like, I just want some parks, man. I need it to feel a little bit different. When I go into a wild area, what makes it a wild area? they moved the cones that, like a big sign that says Pokemon can't come over here. Pokemon have to stay over here on 3rd and Broadway, from 3rd and Broadway to the Jimmy John's over there a couple blocks. That's your wild area. What's wild about it? I don't know. So yeah, I don't know. Just wanted to talk about that a little bit. It's just weird. I'm still excited for the game. I think the game will probably still be good. If it's anything as good as Arceus, I will enjoy it fine. It's just weird. Was really hoping that Pokemon Company was hiding something, and any trailer now, they're gonna give it to us, but like, nah, they haven't. I'm still hoping to somehow be surprised, but like we have, and okay, and I do also have to mention, there is something to be said for the idea of catching Pokemon in a city. There is some value there, even if it doesn't live up to the idea. There is something there. I was just watching the hands-on impressions video that Steve from GVG did, and he got flown to an event and got to play the game like a whole bunch. And you know, in that, even knowing that he played the game for several hours, that still didn't reveal anything like we're talking about. However, he did have good things to say about just the idea of fighting trainers and catching Pokemon in a city place, because it is different. You know, you go from like wide open areas to smaller areas. Now you're like fighting and catching Pokemon like around corners and up and down stairs. So it's more limited, kind of constrained, but there's also like more verticality. So like that is interesting. I do think that's interesting, and that could give the game its own kind of value. I think I just want to mix, you know? I just was looking forward to like just kind of a mix of ideas, not just the city streets. But yeah, I don't know. We will see soon enough, I guess. Game comes out pretty soon.